Charles, thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you, Jennifer. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I'm so excited to share your new book, Leadership and Masculinity, Embracing New Strength with the World. And so I wanted to just take this time to have you share a little bit about the book and a little bit about yourself and help listeners understand where they can find more information if they'd like to get more educated about leadership and masculinity. So let's start maybe back at the beginning. So what is your dance through life? Who are you?
Yeah, that's a great question. Who am I? I'm changing all the time. And I think the things that people should know about me is, I grew up in a small town, stuck on the side of a mountain in Jerome, Arizona. It was fortunate enough to go off to an Ivy League institution and got kind of sucked into a bunch of folks doing outdoor leadership, teaching rock climbing, teaching backpacking. And that became the early part of my career. And so my early experience with leadership, I was really fortunate to have this really collaborative, engaged leadership. We were always leading in teams. We were always mentoring, not just telling. We were always very, very situational leadership. Oh, a thunderstorm is coming in. Okay, that changes the kind of leadership we're doing. It turns out this student is actually much better at this particular skill than we thought. Okay, that changes our leadership. So I learned a kind of leadership early on that was really collaborative, inventive, reciprocal, and involved all the domains, the mental, the emotional, the spiritual, the physical. And I was able to bring a lot of those leadership skills into my work in the nonprofit world and as a leader. And then I tell the story in the book. I forgot everything I learned when I got promoted to executive director. I did the Peter Principle thing. I got promoted beyond my level of expertise and became not a good boss. And like I said, forgot everything I learned. Really anxious, full of that imposter syndrome. A lot of people, a lot of female leaders talk really clearly about imposter syndrome and how it affects them, but it affects men as well. But we don't talk about it. We just try and bowl through and pretend that we're going to be okay. And that's what I was doing for a while. But fortunately, I got some transformational coaching and remembered all of the parts of me that wanted to be a successful leader, who wanted to lead well, live fully, be able to sleep at night, not be anxious all the time, and to be able to leave a positive legacy. And so that's a lot of what I wrote the book about men's struggles with those old strength norms about leadership, top down, power and control, oppression and repression, and to remember that we really are built for collaboration. We really are built for full spectrum humanity. We've been talked out of those parts of being human by the man box, that definition of masculinity that's very limiting for us. So I've been, who am I? I'm somebody who's really rooting for myself and really rooting for other men to be able to get out of that man box and live a full life and to lead in a way that leads a really positive legacy for themselves and for the people they lead.
Mm-hmm. I love that. I think especially today with everything the world is experiencing and all of the current events that we're seeing, this man box idea and having to let go of those old school thinking around power and control and distrust and micromanagement and everything that comes with that inability to show up as your full self in a leadership role is just so critical for people to hear this message today. It sounds like you had to overcome your own imposter syndrome and get out of your own man box to be able to
100%.
Move into a space to write this book. What other challenges did you have to overcome to create and share this book with the world?
Oh my gosh, what a process it's been. I think the number one thing I had to overcome was the idea of perfection. And I'm still afraid. It's as we get closer and closer to the actual publication date of the book, I feel more and more anxiety coming up about being judged, about not measuring up, about not putting enough in the book, about putting too much in the book. Before we started recording, talked about how it was supposed to be a 40-page little, glorified pamphlet, and it's become, this kind of 100-page, fairly thick book, which is apparently the same length as The Christmas Carol and Heart of Darkness, and also Lemony Snicket's Series of Unfortunate Events. So that's the crowd that I'm in. So yeah, lots of imposter syndrome stuff coming up, and also fear around. I had to think about a particular man reading it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there are a lot of men who may be really resistant to this, and sort of fearing that they're just going to pick it up and put it right back down. And I kept having to think about the subset of men who have experienced what I've experienced, and have experienced some disappointment in their own leadership, disappointment in the way that the rules that they're following, the masculine rules that they're following, are damaging their relationships, damaging their marriages, damaging their relationships with their kids. But they know that there's more out there for them. Mm-hmm. They know that there's more humanity out there for them. So trying to focus on those guys really clearly has been part of the struggle.
Mm-hmm. So, you and I have talked in the past around how, there's these rigid structures for men to adhere to that code of behavior, and that it really doesn't leave room for the human part of the equation. And your book sounds like it addresses how men can still maybe fulfill the role that they want to fulfill and need to fulfill, yet bring that human element into the conversation as well.
Yeah.
What would you say to those men who are struggling with that today?
Yeah. And I think the most important thing I would say to them is it's you get to have what you have without all of the pain. So the idea for many men, what they hear is that you need to be soft, you need to be more like a woman, or you need to be harder and more stoic. And what I'm saying is there's a middle path. It's not, when I listen carefully to you, when I listen receptively to my wife, when I listen to people on my team, when I collaborate, when I mentor, when I express vulnerability, I don't feel weak or soft or less than. I feel badass. Like I feel really freaking powerful when I do those things. So that's my important message to men. It's about embracing this new kind of strength that's always been there. Mm-hmm. It's always been there. You had it when you were 2 and your best friend was hurt, and you picked your best friend up off the dirt in the playground and gave them a hug. You had it when you had your first pet, that intense strength of love and thinking about and caring for another being. Mm-hmm. All that is still available to men. We've been talked out of it and told that that's not appropriate for us. Mm-hmm. And so this sort of cognitive dissonance that I've been experiencing over the last couple of decades of like, every time I behave in a way that's been stigmatized by the man box, like I said, listening, collaborating, caring for somebody else, caring for an older person, being kind. Every time I've done one of those behaviors, vulnerable, expressing my own emotions, I've come out of it feeling more powerful and more like myself, and with more capacity to lead, not weaker, not less than, not losing status, but actually gaining all of those things.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. So what I'm hearing is that when you're able to tap into that side of you that has those emotions and has that ability to show compassion and caring and extending that view outside of yourself, that it actually is coming back to you in this virtuous loop and creating even more strength for you to draw on and give out to others.
Right. I mean, let's talk about Volodymyr Zelensky.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about that example of masculinity and strength.
Yeah.
He, even before the war, he told all of the people in his government, don't put my picture on the wall. Put the picture of your children and your wife on the wall. That's who you're serving. Mm-hmm. So he is so rooted in his own strength and love for his country and love for his people that he can show up disheveled. He can show up emotional. He can show up passionate, and he gets more status and more respect. whereas his opponent in this war, which we won't name, is, well, Putin. Putin is an old strength masculine man, and we're seeing the limits of that strength. He is more and more isolated, more and more afraid. He has incredibly powerful missiles and armies, and some of those folks are deserting him. They don't want to be a part of that anymore.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I think this makes an outstanding case study for the old strength version of leadership and the new strength version of leadership.
Absolutely.
And it leads right into this next question that I had for you. So, why is now the right time for this content?
Right. There are, even the Ukrainian war aside, there's so many challenges facing the planet. We got global climate change and loss of species and ocean acidification. But even more closely for leaders, for male leaders in particular, if you want to hang on to an engaged workforce, if you want to be able to lead a diverse workforce, if you want to be able to bring up women and people of color and LGBTQI folks, if you want to bring the younger generation, Gen Z, into the workplace and create powerful teams that are going to make you look good, then you need to shift away from that power over command and control style of leadership. And you need to do the work on yourself so that, when the imposter syndrome comes up or when the desire to control shows up, that you're able to breathe through that. And that's a large part of what the book is about different ideas for doing that inner work, to be prepared as a person to lead in a way that the 21st century is calling for. If you want to be able to lead a hybrid workforce that's working from home and taking care of their kids, and the cat's walking across the front of the Zoom link, all you're going to get this opportunity to be a leader leading with new strength.
So if listeners want to experience what you have in the book and learn more about what's in the book, how can they access your book?
Great. So we'll put a free chapter of the book on my homepage and my webpage, charlesmathews.com. So you get to just check out that first chapter for free. And so charlesmathews.com, go there, and the link will be right there on the homepage, and get kind of a taste of what we're talking about with new strength, and whether or not that book is for you or for somebody else. I've got a couple of young leaders who I'm just going to send it to them, and hope that they read it, and hope that they can gain some concrete tips for steering toward that new strength path.
Okay. So if listeners want to access Charles's book, you can go to his website, where he has generously offered the first chapter for you to download for free, and take a look and see if you're interested in it and learn more about leadership and masculinity, embracing new strength. It's Charles, Matheus.com. And Charles, just to close out our conversation today, is there anything else that you'd like to share about this content?
Yeah, I just want to encourage men to reach, male leaders in particular, to reach out through the website, to sign up for the newsletter, and let's create a community of men who can support one another in this work. It's not something that we're going to do alone. Step one is to build awareness, which you're already doing by listening to this right now. And step two is asking for help. We can break out of the man box just by asking for help. That's a revolutionary gesture on the part of men and male leaders. We don't have to do this alone.
So to build that community and have a space where others are working towards the same thing, be sure to reach out to Charles, sign up for his email distribution list, and download the book, and start on your journey to leadership and masculinity today. Thank you, Charles, so much for being here today.
Thank you. I love talking about this topic. I really appreciate the opportunity.
It's my pleasure. Let's see if we can reach lots of male leaders out there today.
Absolutely. Thank you for what you do. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Charles. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.